Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Daily Dose with Dylan Davis. And as always, we are streaming to you live through the Painted Lines Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube channel. So if you're new to any of the channels, please hit that follow button. Please hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. And please like this video. Today, I have a new co-host with me. You've seen him on the show before. At Mark Henry Jr. _ is where you can give him a follow. He is the host of the Tough Cover podcast here at the Painted Lines, and he will have some gambling picks for you today. And we cannot let down our man, Brian Baker, and you have to give out a golf pick, a Masters pick for him. I am not the guy. I'm not into golf. I don't follow golf whatsoever. So, Brian, don't look at me. Look at the man to my right. But before we get started today, we have a message from our sponsors at XL Media.
Hey, what's up, guys? March Madness is here. The NBA and NHL are both in full swing. Baseball opening day is coming up, while we here at the Painted Lines are devoted to bringing you top-notch content from all the major sports. We are excited to also now give you the opportunity to cash in on all that content and knowledge. If you follow the link below, you will have the opportunity to sign up with BetRivers, an online sportsbook, and get an instant new user deposit match of up to $250. That's free money that you can use and try to turn into more free money. Let's go. Don't sit there and waste all that money. Turn every basket into an otherwise meaningless Cavs-Timberwolves matchup on a random Wednesday in March. That makes it all the more exciting. For betting tips and advice, be sure to check out written content from our top prognosticator, Money Max, on our website at thepaintedlines.com, or check out the Tough Cover podcast right here on the Painted Lines YouTube channel. You've seen the commercials all over TV and radio, but now is the time. Sign up today with BetRivers using the link below and start cashing in on your love for sports. Using the link below will automatically inform BetRivers that TPL sent you, and you'll get that new user deposit match of up to $250. Don't miss out on this opportunity for some free money, baby.
There it is, guys. 100% match up to $250 from our friends at XL Media and BetRivers. On today's show, Mark, a lot more to unpack. It's going to be a lot to unpack every day here, every day on the Tough Cover pod, every day on the Daily Dose, because the Phillies play just about every day, every night. And then you had the Sixers in action last night. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about that Sixers impressive 3/4 win. The first quarter was 25-24. They took over in the second quarter, really. So the Sixers sweep the season series versus the Boston Celtics. We'll break that game down a little bit. Joel Embiid, still a little rust, but dominated the Celtics last night. The Phillies dropped their first game of the young season to the Mets to fall to 4-1. And then we'll break down tonight's matchup a little bit and see if Aaron Nola and this Phillies ball club can win the series. Me and Mark will be down there. I just planned this about 30 seconds ago. So thank you, Mark Henry Jr., to get us down to the ballpark. So what's going on, man?
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I was just on Party on Broad with the guy. You just pulled up the comment there, Dives. We were talking Eagles. Now I'm switching up to talk some Sixers and Phillies. Just the duality of me on the Tough Cover podcast coming on the Daily Dose. No, I'm joking. But, yeah, those are my three teams. I don't talk Flyers. I'm not the right guy to come to. I'm really not the right guy to come to for the golf pick either, but I do have one for you. But, yeah, I'm excited to talk Sixers and Phillies. Great stuff to talk about right now in the city.
Absolutely. So let's start with the Phillies last night. They were the team that held an L in the city last night. They followed the Mets 8-4. Like I said, their first loss of the year. Didi Gregorius did hit a 421-foot absolute rocket missile over the center field wall last night. But we'll get to the bats in a few minutes. But I want to start on the bump, Mark. And first, before we get to the negative, let's start with Chase Anderson's debut. Matt Moore's debut in the pinstripes 2 nights ago was a little bumpy. It started out three strong innings. He comes back out in the fourth and kind of loses command of that strike zone. He was cooked. Bullpen's got to take over. Chase Anderson last night, he doesn't get too deep into the ball game, but that's because of where he came up in the order in the bottom of the fifth in a 2-1 game. He throws 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 2 earned, 3 strikeouts. He came out after 5, like I said, with 80 pitches thrown. What were your thoughts on Chase Anderson's debut? How did he look? And do you think Joe would have thrown him out there in the 6th if he didn't have to lead off the bottom of the 5th?
Yeah, I do think he would have went out there in the 6th. He only had 80 pitches. I think that Chase Anderson, we talked about it on the podcast we did before the season about the Phillies. I was way higher coming into the year on the Chase Anderson signing than I was on the Matt Moore signing because he had a little bit more of sustained success in Milwaukee and Arizona than Matt Moore had in San Francisco or any of his other stops. So I think Chase Anderson looked every bit of a good 4th starter last night. You go 5-6 innings into a game, 80 to 100 pitches. You give up 2 runs. That should give us a chance to win every time. The bats weren't alive until later in the game, until it was a little bit too late. Chase Anderson 100% gave us a chance to win that game last night, and you can't have any fault or any negative about Chase Anderson's performance for sure. I do think he would have went back out there in the 6th. I kind of just wish he would have let him hit and just said whatever and send him back out there in the 6th because Vinny V, he was good in the 6th, but the 7th not so much.
All right, yeah, that is the next thing I want to get into. So just apologize if my Wi-Fi is messed up a little bit. Is it, or am I good? Because my computer is telling me that it's messed up.
So you sound fine. There's no problem with the sound. You're
just a little blurry.
You're doing good now though.
All right. So Chase Anderson, I agree, man. Especially in a 2-1 ball game, it's not like you said. First of all, from your 5th starter, all you can ask is that he puts the team in a position to win a game, and he did exactly that through 5 innings. So I was more impressed with Chase Anderson than I was with Matt Moore 2 nights ago. But I agree on the Joe Girardi didn't have a great game last night, and I'm a huge Joe Girardi guy. For 2 reasons. It was only a 2-1 game in the bottom of the 5th when you pulled Chase Anderson for a pinch hitter. You're only down 1 run. You didn't need to make up that run in the bottom of the 5th. Okay. And then let's get into the second point you brought up, and that is Vinny V, Vince Velasquez, the saga that just never seems to go the hell away. And you can blame him all you want because he sucks. He does, right? So he comes out in the 6th to replace Chase Anderson, and he strikes out the side. Job well done. And I'm texting people messing around. I got people texting me and all. Vinny bullpen, like, let's go, blah, blah, blah. And then Joey G trots him back out there in the top of the 7th. And what does he do when he throws him back out there in the 7th? He gets 1 out, walks 4, and is on the hook for 4 earned runs. So my question mark is, why the hell did Joe Girardi throw him back out there in the 7th? I'm sorry. I don't want to hear he didn't have enough arms. It was game 5. I'm not like pissed off that they lost the game. The Phillies aren't going to go 162-0. But why the hell did you throw him back out there? Why would you not let him build confidence off of striking out the side in the 6th? Pull him after a good debut. Let him build some confidence off the outing. Instead, he trots him back out there, and Vinny Headcase comes back to play in the top of the 7th. That's exactly what happened. He couldn't find the strike zone. He couldn't throw a strike if his life depended on it in the top of the 7th. He threw in the 4 outs he got. He threw 4 strikeouts, and then he walked 4 for 4 earned. Walked in a run also, and then he brings in Kinsler. And poor Kinsler, dude, the 2nd straight night he's got to come in to a 1-out bases loaded situation. The first night he's able to dial up a ground ball double play and get out of it. Not so much the 2nd night, okay? And that's not his fault, and it's a shame he got thrown into that. So, I want to ask you your thoughts on Girardi throwing Vince back out there, because we can stomp our feet all we want about Vince Velasquez, but at the end of the day, he shouldn't be out there. B, it's a 2-parter, because I talk a lot about how Doc Rivers, a guy that's coached a long time in the NBA, a championship caliber head coach, he knows how to lose when they don't have it on certain nights, right? Girardi threw Velasquez 2 innings. He threw David Hale 2 innings. You see Matt Joyce in the lineup, Roman Quinn's in the lineup, batting 8th. Like, was this just you know what? We got our 5th starter on the mound. Let's get Kutch and some rest, and let's go out and win the series tomorrow. Talk to me about that. I know I just asked you a bunch.
No, yeah, I'm not the biggest Joe Girardi guy in the world. Just in terms of, well, for me, I always say this. I think the same thing in baseball and basketball, and this is controversial. I am not a huge believer in that coaching means all that much. I think that the top 5 and the bottom 5 coaches make a huge difference. And I think everyone in between there is it's relationship management at that point. Everyone in there, just differences in X's and O's, but everyone in between, I think, is just about the same, and they're adding just about the same value to their team. And I think Brett Brown and Gabe Kapler were both viewed when they were here as they were the scapegoat for the failures of those teams. And I think a lot of that is unfair. I think a lot of it went on what the GM on both, baseball and basketball side, Klemtak, and the cavalcade of GMs that the Sixers have had over the last however many years. I think it had a lot more to do with that than Brett Brown or Gabe Kapler. But I, even as the biggest Brett Brown apologist ever, can admit that there has been a marked, noted difference between how they managed the team with Brett Brown and Doc Rivers. So then you look at Gabe Kapler and Joe Girardi. I understand that last year we had the worst bullpen ever, and we had a great rotation. We had a great lineup. All the peripherals said that we probably should have made the playoffs if those bullpen moves weren't, if we had a better bullpen.
Sure.
But you look at the year before, Gabe Kapler had pretty much the same bullpen. And the difference in how Gabe Kapler was criticized 2 years ago to how Joe Girardi was criticized last year, more so than this year. It's too early besides what we're saying. Besides what we're saying about that. But it's not as big of a difference between Kapler and Joe Girardi as I think most people would like to think. And I think most people are acting like it's this huge difference. I think a big part of the difference is how much better the roster is. And this bullpen that Girardi has is the best bullpen we've had in years, even if it's not excellent. So I am willing to criticize Joe Girardi's use of this bullpen because of the fact that we do have a good amount of arms who I feel a little bit more comfortable with, even on a night that we were short. So I think that Joe Girardi escapes a lot of criticism a lot of the time. So,
I do. I agree with you. I am a Joe Girardi guy. I think he's light years better than Gabe Kapler, so we have a difference of opinion there. But I do agree. I said that in one of the first spitballing episodes last year when he pulled Nola in the one start in the beginning of the year, and I'm like, if that's Gabe Kapler, he's crushed for that move. So I agree with you on that point, but I do love Joe Girardi, and last night was just a frustrating loss. It was the first taste of a loss we've gotten since the Philly season has started. So, it hurt a little bit more because if it was winnable, 2-1, Vinny V holds it down in the 6th, and it's like, okay, let's get the bats going now. And not to mention, you got into the Mets bullpen that inning. Stroman was done after 6, correct?
Yeah.
So the bottom of the 7th, you're into the Mets bullpen in a 2-1 game, hopefully. If that's not to say whoever comes in the 7th was going to hold it down. You got a much better chance than Vince Velasquez going out for a second inning.
And I don't want to make it seem like I hate Girardi. I think he's probably a top 10 manager. I think he's probably a top 10 manager in baseball. I think most people probably in Philly would be like, oh, he's best manager in baseball. He's top 3 manager in baseball. And I don't think I don't think he brings something to the team that a lot of, I think Alex Cora, whatever you want to think about his involvement in the Astros thing, I think he's a great manager. I think that there's a lot of managers out there who I think actually add legitimate value to their team. And I think Girardi adds value, but I don't think it's as much as people think. And I don't think Gabe Kapler subtracted as much as people think. I just think that people treated them a lot differently. And I don't think that he's earned it as much as Doc Rivers at this point has earned to be treated differently.
Right. And it's definitely just the personality, too, when it comes down to Gabe Kapler.
100%.
So, yeah, Joe Girardi didn't have the best night, but it raises the question of, was it just, we're bound to let's get out strong and win the series with Nola on the bump today. And we will get into that game a little later in the show. Okay, let's have another fun conversation. Roman Quinn. Mark, me and you are on the same wavelength here. There's no debating this. And I do have to, hold on. I'm sorry. I have to pull this up. Oh, boy. Roman Quinn. I have gone on rants about him since the season has begun. I know you have tweeted multiple times that he is not a center fielder. He is not an MLB starter. Roman Quinn this season, strikeout, bunt ground out, hit by pitch in which he scores on opening day. strikeout, 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 hit by pitch, ground out, strikeout, strikeout.
Lean into it, Roman. If you're going to be out there, you got to lean into it.
And a few of those strikeouts have come with runners in scoring position in big moments this year. And I know that last night was the only time one of those moments mattered because it resulted in a loss. But man, it just seems like every time the Phillies get something going and the bats are silent and there's bases loaded or second and third or first and second, whatever the case may be, here comes Roman Quinn. And then I think last night he had like a 3-1 count or a 3-0 count and ends up striking out. And I'm like, dude, just put the ball in play, man. So talk to me a little bit about Roman Quinn and Adam Hazley, because Hazley hasn't, the spring training numbers that Hazley put up haven't translated to the first 5 games that he's participated in the regular season. Talk to me about the center field position. Who do you trust more? And I just take it from there, man, because that's the one position that's got me angry on this roster.
Yeah, Hazley, I do think he's hit well. I think Hazley has hit well. He went 2 for 3, which skews his numbers a little bit last night after he came in late in the game. But I haven't had a problem with Hazley hitting, but that play he made the other day in the field was just like, holy crap, man. Like, how do you think you need to go back first on that fly ball that was so clearly like a shallow fly ball? It was just crazy to see that. He plays center field like he's underwater. And then Roman Quinn bats like he's holding a sword. Like one can't play the field at all. One can't bat at all. It's a massive problem. Hopefully, save us, Mickey Moniak, one day. Hopefully,
man, for real.
I mean, I don't have too high of expectations. It's like just be average at both, and I'll be like whatever. Or maybe even give Kingery a try. I don't know, but he's terrible out there in center field anyway. So I'd probably rather just have Hazley's bat in the lineup. I don't have a problem with Hazley at the plate. It's just in the field. He's just terrible. So it's just based on, are you more willing to accept a terrible batter and a fast guy and a good center fielder? Or are you more willing to accept a terrible center fielder and a pretty good batter, like a decent batter?
And then the last thing, just on last night, there wasn't a lot of positives. I already mentioned Didi Gregorius's missile of a home run last night. That was one positive. But the bats overall, I know they scored 4 runs. Most of them came late. They stayed silent through the first 5 games. It seemed against Marcus Stroman, man, in the first 6 innings, outside of Didi's home run, everything was a soft hit ground ball. Not a lot of balls left the infield last night for this Phillies ball club. And that was maybe the most frustrating aspect to watch. Like, okay, Anderson's keeping you in it. He's keeping you in it. Didi homers. It's 2-1. He's keeping you in it. And then it all goes to shit. So let's move on. We'll circle back to the Phillies and the Mets preview at the end of today's show. Let's get into the Sixers and Celtics review from last night. So the Philadelphia 76ers take down the Celtics 106-96 last night to sweep the season series against Boston 3-0. You got Boston blogs and beat reporters tweeting Philadelphia is better, blah blah blah. It's a great feeling. Joel Embiid last night, 35 points, 16 of 20 from the free throw line. You heard his conversation with Reggie Miller that it wasn't good enough. He should be a 90% free throw shooter. I love the mindset from the big fella this year. In 3 games versus the Celtics this season, Joel Embiid has 115 points. And I don't have the field goal percentage in front of me, but I know it's a crazy field goal percentage. He's been to the line, I'm pretty sure, more times than the Celtics team has in the 3 matchups. He dominates that matchup. You know, Mark, I'll throw this to you first. When I see the Sixers in the 1 and 2 seed for what feels like the first time in a very, very long time, because last year they were a 6. The years they were winning 52 games, they were like a 3 or a 4 seed, right? And it's like, you finally get that 1 or 2 seed, and you might have to see Boston. Like, I don't want that. And I want Charlotte or the Knicks in the first round. You know what I mean? But then I watch the matchup issues they have with Joel Embiid, and I'm like, no, come on. Like, they have no answer for him, dude. You traded Tice. Like, they have no answer for the big fella. So talk to me about Joel Embiid's performance last night, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think Mark Zumoff, the guy, the man, the myth, the legend himself, said it best. He said, there's no one in the New England area that can guard Joel Embiid. And it's completely true. The Celtics are hopeless against Embiid. I get your sentiment wanting a Charlotte or a New York in the first round, but they cannot deal with Joel Embiid at all. I think it'd be a sweep again, just like we did in the regular season. I just think that they have no answer for Joel. They can double all they want. They can go short all they want. They can bring in Taco Fall all they want.
Yeah, dude. They tried to throw the kitchen sink at him last night because that was one of the talking points on the pregame when we did the Daily Dose yesterday. It's like, okay, they traded Tice. Tristan Thompson's out. What are they going to do? Robert Williams can't cover him. He's going to end up fouling out, which he does.
Mm-hmm.
They're throwing Grant Williams at him. They're throwing your boy Luke Cornett at him. They're throwing Taco Falls in the game in the second quarter, right? Like, what is going? They had no response for Joel Embiid last night. He shot 20 free throws. And here's the craziest part, Mark. 35 points. And there was still rust.
Yeah.
He was only 9 of 19 from the field. 1 of 5 from deep. And he dropped 35.
It's a parade to the free throw line.
And look, I love Joel Embiid more than anyone in the city. Please pump the brakes.
I'm not pumping the brakes. I'm pumping the gas.
Are you hold on? Okay, hold on. Are you talking about in this very moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in general, I think that Joel Embiid's impact on both ends of the floor. I think this is part of a whole grander convo. Ben Simmons, I'm wearing an LSU shirt. I love Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
The Ben Simmons Defensive Player of the Year stuff to me is just complete nonsense because the best defensive player in the world plays on Ben Simmons' team, and it's not Ben Simmons. Joel Embiid, his impact as a defensive player, you see it in the games he's in, and then when he's not, teams are afraid to go to the paint when he's in. He doesn't even have to block as many shots as he used to just because of the intimidation factor and what people know about him defensively. And I think that impact is to me, I think Joel Embiid is right in there for the conversation for the second best player in the world because someone's got to unseat LeBron, in my opinion, still, just because he won the title last year, the best player. Someone's got to unseat LeBron, but, I mean, I don't think that there's anyone you can say is definitively better than this version of Joel Embiid.
Sure. No, if you're talking right now, I've said this multiple times before he got hurt. Like right now, there's no one I would take over Joel Embiid. He's the MVP of the league. If you're the MVP of the league, you're the best player in the league right now. He's dominating. He got the Sixers at the first seed in the Eastern Conference. I agree there. When I looked at that comment, I'm like, Kevin Durant might be the greatest scorer I've ever seen. Like if you're talking like overall, like let's just relax. But yeah, in the moment, yeah, and also KD hasn't played, so let's see. Chris says we're going to return the sweep back to Boston if they can get out of the play-in tournament. That would even be more beautiful if Boston loses in the play-in tournament. But to the man on your T-shirt, Mark, we're talking about this Boston Celtics matchup. Did you know he's never lost to Kemba Walker?
No, I didn't know that. And that's shocking.
He's 14-0 against Kemba Walker.
That's shocking because Kemba used to kill us. But I do remember we won most of those games. I remember Jimmy Butler hit a game winner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, God, taking me down a dark place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, let's take it there, right? There's only so much you can talk about Joel Embiid's performance. I mean, that step back, that James Harden-esque step back that everyone was lighting Twitter on fire for was a 7-footer, 7-1, whatever you want to call him. Shouldn't have that in his bag, dude. It just shouldn't be possible. He played out of this world. Another bright spot last night who continues to just be a leader on this team and knock down from the corners. Mr. Danny Green, 17 points last night on 5 of 6 shooting. Man, I think since the All-Star break, he's shooting over 50% from beyond the arc. Are his legs just under him? Like, is that it? Like, because everyone told me before the year, like, I don't expect a lot out of Danny Green. He's washed. Like, even on the defensive end, like, you hear he's 3-and-D. He can't play defense anymore. He's too slow. His knees, blah, blah, blah. Are his legs under him? And this is the Danny Green we're going to see in the postseason? Because if it is, that adds a huge aspect to this team that they didn't have last year.
I mean, I think he's just listening to the Daily Dose. I think Matt McGinty pissed Danny Green off to beat the Danny Green you need him to be. Whining and complaining about Kyle Lowry. I think I speaking for myself, I could not be more happy that Danny Green is still on this team. If he would have left, we would have had a gaping hole where Danny Green is currently filling as that 3-and-D wing on both ends. He's been fantastic since the break. I've loved how he's been all year. He's shooting the most threes of his career, even before the All-Star break, at a pretty high clip. I just love everything that Danny Green's been doing. Last night was a good night for almost everybody on the team.
Were you on the show when Danny Green had a rough night against the Knicks, and Gint was commenting because he was on the bus somewhere, and he was like, "Man, Danny Green's good, huh?" And we're like, "Yo, shut up!" And then I don't think he's had a bad performance since that night.
No, yeah, it was the game that we went
that
to.
We were at, right?
The
next game, yeah. So he's been unreal, but it's interesting that you say that about the rest of the team. So we will get to Ben Simmons and how he played last night, but you're 100% correct. It wasn't a bad game there wasn't a bad game from anyone. But the one thing that I'm just box score watching here, and again, I watched the whole game, but when you go back and look at the numbers, it didn't take, outside of Joel, no one overperformed for them to beat up on Boston like this. And like I said, the first quarter was like a 1-point differential. They were unconscious from three. Jaylen Brown hit a couple step back threes in the first quarter, and it's like, okay, come on. And the Sixers from the second quarter on took over, had a 15, 16, 14-point lead a majority of the game, didn't let Boston breathe. Every time Boston cut it to 10 or 12, here come the Sixers, right? But when you go back and look at the points, so Joel drops 35, Danny gives you 17. Outside of that, Seth, 9, 1 of 5 from deep. Tobias, 10 on 4 of 11 shooting. Ben, 12. Matisse hit 1 3. Shake Milton, 6 on 3 of 8 shooting. Dwight Howard, 4. Korkmaz, 10 on 1 of 4 from 3, right? Mike Scott, 0 in 12 minutes. When you look at those numbers, Mark, one dude dropped 35, and the rest were good or underperforming, and they dominated the Boston Celtics. Why can and I'm throwing you on the spot here, but do you have any answer for that? Like why when I look at those numbers does it translate to a beat down win?
I think it's just about the fact that we controlled the entire game. There was no point in time where it got under like 8 points, it felt like, or under 6 points or anything like that. And as for the guys who underperformed, I guess, statistically, Tobias Harris with 10 points, Ben Simmons with 12 points, Seth Curry with 9 points. Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris were so good on defense last night. Like, Ben Simmons, that's a kind of a given. It's against Brown and Tatum. This is like a matchup that's made for him to shine defensively. So you look at Tobias Harris, though. We've talked ad nauseum about how great Tobias has been this year in general, and I wanted to trade Tobias in the offseason. There's no way around that. I wanted to trade him. Him and Horford, I wanted to get off both deals and kind of just move forward. Tobias Harris has been unbelievable this year in just about every capacity, and the way he's been defensively has been the most impressive thing, especially against bigs throughout the year, which is why it was good to see yesterday against Tatum and Jaylen, who are not bigs. He was defending on the perimeter against two of the best perimeter players in the NBA, both All-Stars, and I think that you can't say enough about how good Tobias was defensively in that game. I think he focused on that going into the game more so than offense. And when he knew that he had the big fella who they could just dump it to anytime it got within 8 points, that Tobias doesn't have to take that scoring load that he has been taking as of late. And I think that was by design. I think that he was really focusing on shutting down Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and using all of the energy that he could there. And it was a weird night for Seth Curry. Seth Curry went 3 or 4 from two. And 1 of 5 from 3, which I'm never going to complain about him going 1 of 5 from 3. Keep shooting. You're going to get hot eventually, Seth. Just keep it firing from 3. Anytime he takes below 5 threes per game, he should be fined. So just keep taking threes.
Fined by Doc.
Yeah, they'll fall eventually. But yeah, even Seth Curry, I thought was great as a team defender last night. He was switching when he needed to, and he was staying on the perimeter. Wasn't getting blown by. And you can see it in the plus minuses. I mean, Danny Green plus 21, Seth Curry plus 16, Tobias plus 20, and Ben and Joe a little lower at plus 11 and plus 12. But I think a lot of that's just because of late game stuff.
Yeah.
But Toby and Seth, while underperforming on a statistic standpoint, same with Ben, were just more important than words can even describe defensively.
Right. One thing that stuck out to me last night, and they've done it all year, but I haven't seen it in a while since Joel Embiid was out for a long period of time. It felt like. And I don't know if this is Doc's system, if this is veteran players, when a first look's not there, like Danny Green is what I'm talking about. Seth Curry, like when a look's not there at first in the post, they don't since they're veterans, they don't, shy away and go a different direction. When they try to feed Joel or Toby in the little post and they're on the block and they're posting up and ball, feed it to him. It's not a double comes or the look's not there right away. Joel kicks it back out to Danny, let's say. Danny then doesn't look to go the opposite of Joel. They reset, feed Joel back, reestablish position, go back to work. They don't try if the initial look in the post isn't there, they don't go away from it and try to run their offense a different direction. They keep feeding them. Tobias, same thing. Not there, kick back out, one pass, back down to Tobias in the post, and he goes to work on the mismatch. That is something that I love. I don't know if that's Doc Rivers' if that's the system he's placed, if that's the veteran leadership in Danny Green and Seth Curry that's like, like Shake. Shake probably, I don't know, I'm sure he's done it over the course of the year, but if it's not there and they kick it back out to Shake 75% of the time is probably going to take the ball to the opposite side of the court and go to work over there. He's not going to refeed Embiid or Toby in the post. So that is one thing that I love in playoff basketball. What is it? It's a half-court game. It's half-court offense. That is something that they're going to need to establish in the half-court. Is not if the initial look in the post isn't there, don't run away from it and try to force something else to a worse look offensively. So that's been great. But let's talk about 2-5, Mark. Everyone's been getting on them. And I've come on the show and I've said, 5 points in the postseason, not acceptable, right? 2 of 11 in the postseason, not acceptable. That could be a reason they lose the game. But let's relax, okay? And there's been some stuff to come out that I don't want to touch on. It could play a factor. I don't know. Not going to discuss it with Ben's head. With his play last night, what were your thoughts on that? And again, only 12 points. And I'm sure people, only 7 shots. Are you kidding me? Blah, blah. 12 points. He played a huge role in the win last night. And one thing I prefaced to the viewers yesterday and getting Scotty was Ben haters, I almost feel like, would rather watch Ben score 25 in a Sixers loss than Ben score 11 in a Sixers W. And he scored 12 in a Sixers W last night. So I haven't seen it, but I'm sure they're out there. If there are Ben Simmons haters on social media today, get a new hobby, bro. They thumped the Boston Celtics last night. And you want to bitch and moan because he had 12 points. What were your thoughts on Ben's play last night and just overall about his quote-unquote slump regression right now, offensively?
I'm trying to think about how to talk about this without devolving into just me yelling about Dwight Howard. But I think Ben Simmons was fantastic last night. He had 6 assists and 2 turnovers, and you really felt like he controlled the game. I'm not going to say he's a traditional point guard last night, but like you said, we kept refeeding Embiid. We kept making sure that the ball was going to the right spot. He only took 7 shots. He made 4. The only thing that was disappointing to me from Ben's game last night is missing the first 4 free throws. I think he then followed up to make the next 4. I don't know what he ended up finishing, if it was 4 of 8. But I knew that can't happen in any game, and that has nothing to do with Dwight Howard. But I think a lot of the just overall outside of last game, and I know people don't want to hear it because it's become a punchline how much I hate Dwight Howard, but let me just talk about a couple comments here. Joe Chick, my guy. The car is warmed up and ready for the airport. We got a full carload. Mike Scott, Dwight Howard, and Vinny B. Get him out of here. I actually, and this statistically it doesn't bear out, Mike Scott and Dwight Howard last night did not actively piss me off.
Yeah, I saw your tweet or was your message in Discord.
Yeah, it might have been Discord, yeah. They didn't actively piss me off. Like, I don't think they were good by any means, but they didn't ruin the game for me. There was a couple minutes where Doc went back to Ben Matisse Dwight with more, like, I just don't understand how that's still happening. And, they talked about it on an unnamed Sixers podcast that I won't give any recognition to, but they talked about it and they were saying just like, it's like an abusive relationship, Doc, with this lineup. He just he wants it to work so badly because he sees the defensive potential, but it's just not going to happen on either side of the court. Dodge said, would love to hear Mark's thoughts on Dwight Howard's 14 minutes last night. I can't believe he played 14 minutes. It actually felt like less than that, but that's a good thing. For me to not know he played 14 minutes is a good thing. Like, he should be blending in for like 6 to 8 of the minutes he's playing instead of being the focal point of what you're watching when he's out there, because he can't stop fouling and he can't stop setting illegal screens and he can't stop complaining to the ref and he can't stop standing in the dunker spot.
Not to cut you off, I'll tell you exactly where your frustrations come from, and that's the Joel Embiid effect. Sorry, not infect. It's the Joel, especially come playoff time. Joel's going to play high 30s minutes. So Dwight guy. I just think Dwight's going to blend in the postseason, not ruin the games for you. I agree with you. I mess around. I don't like the lineups whatsoever. But I just, without Embiid, it stuck out like a sore thumb, like a bright red sore infected thumb without Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's back. Dwight's minutes get lowered, and
and this
doesn't look as bad.
This is my problem. It's just that, imagine hating on Dwight. I get that you guys know his name from 11 years ago when he was really good. Like, you guys, meaning the people who love Dwight Howard, who are all over Twitter and Sixers Twitter, whatever, who love Dwight Howard. He's a minus 15.5 on-off this year. Like, that means on average, every game he enters in, his plus-minus is minus 15.5. His net rate, the difference in his net ratings, he is like, there's no one on the top 8 teams in basketball who have played like half or more of the amount of minutes that Dwight Howard has played that are as negative on a good team as Dwight Howard is. I get that it's a lot. Joel gets taken off the court. He's not playing with Joel. Tony Bradley was a +8. And I'm not saying Tony Bradley's great. He's not. But he didn't just stand under the rim. He faced up. He stood where Joel stands a lot of the time. It seemed like when Bradley was out there, they were kind of just telling him to stand in the Joel spots. They're not running the same plays with Bradley that Joel, obviously, even though we were building around Tony Bradley there for a minute. But I think that Tony Bradley was at least just willing to integrate himself into the offense, where Dwight Howard is just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and that's get rebounds, it's foul, it's complain to the ref, it's flirt with the women refs, and it's just completely not care about the offense that's going on around me. I'm just going to stand right under the rim. And it's just so frustrating to watch, and it wouldn't be if Ben Simmons wasn't our guy. And I get that that's a criticism of Ben Simmons. I'm not saying that Ben Simmons is perfect. You have to play very specific players around Ben Simmons, and I get that that's a negative. But you have to play and I'm not saying that he's as good as this person. You have to play very specific players around Giannis as well. You don't see the Milwaukee Bucks playing Dwight Howard with Giannis. They play Brook Lopez and they play Bobby Portis, both guys who shoot it from 3, and both guys who space the floor, both guys who run. It's not Brook Lopez as much in the running, but Dwight Howard is not the correct fit for Ben Simmons. And I've said it a million times. I'm not going to beat it anymore. He wasn't terrible last night. He was a +0. But, and I'm not criticizing him because I didn't complain, the Celtics have the worst bigs in the league. Like, probably bar none. We saw that they had no match for Joel. Dwight Howard had 4 points. So it's like, he played 14 minutes. I'm fine with it because it means he shot less. But if Dwight Howard was still this guy, imagine hating on Dwight. If Dwight Howard was still an unbelievable player, he would be able to take advantage of the Boston Celtics bigs and get a couple buckets, which he didn't. And I'm fine with it, but let's just all be realistic about what Dwight Howard is and what his fit is on this team. And when people start complaining about Furkan and Shake Milton and Steph Curry and Danny Green and all these other guys who are legitimately good players that can help us and will have off games, I find myself frustrated when people try to say that Furkan's the problem or Shake Milton's the problem, because if you're looking at the bench, it's Dwight and Mike Scott that are the clear problems that need to be fixed, in my opinion.
There's Mark Henry Jr.'s Dwight Howard ran it today. Yeah. No, man, look, I bust your balls. I get where you're coming from, and I agree. You're not going to – I don't have an argument for you. I agree with the lineups. I like Dwight on this team when it's not Ben and him, Matisse, and Mike Scott. So, Doc's got to figure out what the hell to do in the playoffs. Joel Embiid, they're not winning without Joel Embiid on the floor. So, as long as Joel Embiid's healthy and they have a chance to win, that means less Dwight. That means really no Dwight with Ben, except for maybe the first minute Joel comes off the floor and then Ben comes off the floor after that a minute later or so. So, I just hope, and I don't think it'll be an issue there. Yeah, Nadir, I know you did because he said that Furkan wasn't the problem.
It's not about Furkan. Furkan is not a perfect player. He's not a great NBA player or anything. But if you look around the league at the guys who are playing around 15 to 20 minutes, even on good teams, Furkan is perfectly playable. He's not killing us. He has games where he goes 2 for 8. He had a bad stretch before last night. He actually didn't play great last night either, but he had a bad last 2 weeks or so. I'm not saying he's anything fantastic, but he's just not killing you. And then you also look at some of the best two-man lineups with Joel. Furkan's actually been like the second best two-man lineup with Joel after Seth Curry, right in front of Ben Simmons, which sounds crazy, but it's just the space that Furkan provides Joel. And I think that Furkan is perfectly playable as opposed to Dwight Howard, who clearly I think is playable without Ben Simmons. I think he's playable without Ben Simmons, but the problem is, are we doing a Seth, Shake, Danny, Toby, Dwight lineup? Because then when you do that, you're limiting the minutes that Toby and Seth can play with Joel and Ben. So it's all a puzzle piece, and I just think Dwight Howard, or backup center, not being able to shoot makes it a tough puzzle to make.
Look, I just bust Furkan's balls because he's so damn inconsistent, and he does one thing well, and if he's not doing that well, he's not playable, in my opinion. We had Tyrone Johnson on the show a couple weeks ago, and you're going to see in the postseason. That's when you're going to know if Furkan's playable or not. Can he get the shots he gets off against the Cavs and the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies? Can he get those shots off against the Heat? Can he get them off in a series against Boston? Played Boston last night. They thumped Boston. I mentioned a lot of guys had off shooting nights. Furkan was like 1 of 4 from 3. Can he get those looks off against better wings, better defenders? That's when you'll know if he's playable in the postseason. He has gotten better on the defensive end, so maybe he's not a complete liability there. But Mark, with that being said, we are on a little time restriction here.
Yeah. Gotta get down to the ballpark.
I got to get down to the ballpark. Let's get back to the Phillies, and let's just talk a little bit about this series finale tonight. Aaron Nola, the ace for the Fightin' Phils, on the mound against David Peterson for the New York Mets. He's only in his second year in the majors. He was 6-2 in 10 starts last year, with a 3.44 ERA in 49 2/3 innings pitched. It does so 10 starts, 49 2/3. He goes about 5 innings per game. It doesn't seem like he gets too deep into games, Mark, and that is huge with this Mets bullpen. Let's see. Phillies lineup tonight. I have it for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Normal's opening day. Kutch, Hoskins, Harper, JT, Bohm, Didi, Segura, Hazley, Aaron Nola wraps up on the bump. So, let's see. Sorry. What time you guys leaving? Traffic.
I'm seeing 35. I'm seeing 35 from my house. So Joe Chick's just messing with us, I think. But
I'm only like 25 from the stadium, so hopefully it's not too bad.
I think it's fine, yeah. So real quick, I'm just going to kind of break down the Phillies game from a gambling perspective because I have 2 bets on this. I'm going to the game. Phillies money line. If I'm going to the game, I'm probably taking the money line of the team I'm rooting for, unless I don't think they're going to win. And I think we're going to win. I'm Nola versus Peterson. I'm fully fine taking this up to -160. I got it at -130. I think it's around -150 now. So I love Phillies money line. But my favorite bet in this game is Phillies team total over 4.5 runs for 2 units. This is my favorite bet on the baseball slate tonight. Philadelphia ranked 5th in the MLB in 2020 with an .815 OPS against lefties. It helps when your best hitter, Bryce Harper, is left-handed and still has an .826 career OPS against southpaws. Peterson was very good last year, even though he didn't get deep into games. But his one bad start, and by far his worst outing.
Is it against the Titans?
Yep. He hit a guy, he walked 4, gave up a homer, 5 earned runs, and didn't make it into the 3rd inning.
Wow.
He went 2 innings, 5 runs, and ended up being a 9-8 win for the Phils last year. Reese hit a homer off of him. Reese kills the Mets in general and has a .901 OPS against lefties on his career. Even when he got in last night, he got an RBI on a pinch hit. So I expect him to be the X factor for this bet and for the game in general tonight. I think Reese puts one out in the left field seats. I didn't see the home run bets. But I think I'm not someone who bets player props really, but I think Rhys Hoskins hit the home run tonight.
Let me hear that bell down there, brother. Let me hear it. That's a great number. Once you said, but he had one bad start last year. I'm like, oh, is that against our Fightin' Phils? So, Mark, yeah, that's the clear and obvious, advantage for the Phillies tonight. You get your ace on the mound versus the Mets' third starter, and the Mets have a weak bullpen, and he doesn't go deep in the game. So if you can get to him early, even earlier than 5, if you can get to him in the 3rd or the 4th inning, make that bullpen work. Castro's thrown the first 2 games of this season, so who knows if he's available or if he can only throw an inning or something tonight against the Phils. And then where do they go from there? They have Betances in their pen too, right? He hasn't thrown yet, so they have Dylan.
I don't know if he's hurt or something. I haven't heard about him, but yeah.
So we'll see what this lineup can do, man. Look, it is game number 6, the game this offense explodes. Mark, I think you explained your answer there, and I agree. It's got to come, right? And what better day to come than Aaron Nola Day, right? How many Aaron Nola starts in the past in a Phillies uniform have we seen 1-0 losses, 2-1 losses, 3-1 losses because they can't get anything going behind him when he's dominant? This lineup, I know only the 2nd series, hasn't produced to the level that it's capable yet. Tonight against David Peterson, it is a perfect get-right night, and you have a chance. The Phillies lose, they're 4-2 to start the year against the Braves and the Mets, and I think that's a better, I had them, I was hopeful they could get to 3-3, be 500 through the first 2 series, win 1, lose 1. But 4-2 is probably better than expected. 5-1 against the Braves and the Mets. Braves also lost on a walk-off against Juan Soto last night, so the Braves are 0-4. 5-1 would be amazing going down to Atlanta on Thursday or Friday whenever they're back, or Friday when they're back to it. So Mark thinks the lineup explodes today. I agree. He's got Reese going yard. I'm saying Bryce gets one. There's no way Bryce hits his first dinger on the road. And one's coming because they got 3 against the Braves in Atlanta, 4 in New York against the Mets after this series. So they won't be home for over 7 games. Bryce is getting a homer somewhere in there. I think his first one comes at Citizens Bank Park. So let me get your predictions on Aaron Nola. How deep does he get in? Good.
I think it could be a rough start for Nola tonight. I'm wearing my LSU shirt, trying to rep for Nola. I'm going to wear it to the park tonight under the Harper jersey. But I think that the Mets have touched him up before a couple times in the last 2 years. So hopefully we see, the same version of Nola that we saw to start the first outing besides the Pablo Sandoval pitch. But I think Nola could be awesome, but I do think my expectations are tempered. But I think he's getting run support tonight. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Maybe take the over, but I'm going with the Phillies team total over specifically. If I would guess, I think the Phillies are more likely to win a high-scoring game today than a low-scoring game, which hasn't been the case so far this year. So I think it's going to be a different type of game than we've seen so far.
I'm feeling 6-3 Phillies win.
Yeah, I can see that. I'll go 8-4. We'll hand it back to them what we got last night.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I got a Phillies dub. Mark's got a Phillies dub. He just gave you some tidbits within this Phillies game tonight, gambling wise. Mark, before we wrap up, give the people some picks, and don't forget your Masters pick for our man Bryant Baker here at TPL.
Yeah, so I'm going to go super, super rapid fire to try to get out of here. At 410, I've got St. Louis Cardinals money line at the Marlins. Sandy Alcantara ain't walking out to that mound to pitch. And this is something that's going to happen a lot all year and something for people to keep track on. When Sandy Alcantara pitches, the Marlins win. So you might want to bet on them in those games. And then the next day, Vegas always overreacts to that Marlins win and makes the line a little too even. The Cardinals are around -110. The Cardinals are the better team here with the better pitcher. Flaherty over Lopez. Love the Cardinals today. I have to score at the same time, so I'll be watching the scoreboard in right field out in Citizens Bank Park for the Cardinals. And then my bet of the night, my play of the day, my lock of the night, first half under 106.5, Knicks Celtics for 2.5 units. The Celtics have 4 first halves. The last 4 first halves for the Celtics have went under in the first half, 6 of the last 7 and 10 of the last 13. The Knicks first half under is 6-1 in the last 7, 9-2 in the last 11. So as of recently, end of the full season, these are 2 of the premier first half under teams, which listeners to the Tough Cover podcast know is one of my favorite bets. And the Knicks have been the best first half under team in the NBA. And the Celtics first half under came through for me on the best bet last night. So I love first half under 106.5. 2.5 units. To a lesser degree, I like Knicks plus 3.5, 1 unit in that game. I think the Knicks win outright. Celtics I'm not very impressed. I think they're a 500 team. And I think the Knicks cover. They play hard. And then Suns plus 2.5 versus the Jazz for 1 unit at 10 o'clock. I'm probably going to increase that depending on how the games go to start the day. but I like the Suns better than the Jazz just outright. They're playing them at home. I think they're the better team, no matter what the records say. They're only like a game or two behind. So I love taking the Suns there. And then for the Masters, I'm not a golf guy, but I will be going with there's two names that I have for you, and they're both Barstool related. Colin Morikawa, shout out Rico Bosco. He saved Rico Bosco's 2020 gambling season. Colin Morikawa, he seems like he's always in every tournament. As a novice golf guy, I feel like I always see him in that leaderboard on Sunday when I'm seeing it tweeted out. So I'll go with Morikawa. I think he's plus 2,900. And then Tony Finau, plus 3,500. He never wins. He always goes deep. And one of the guys at Barstool who follows me, Colby Nolan, bets Tony Finau to win every single golf tournament and loses every single time. My guy Joe Ciccoletti had one real quick before we get out of here. Golf pick. Cam Smith, I think. Yeah, Cam Smith, 3,900. He tied for second last year with 4 straight rounds in the 60s and tied for fifth in 2019. So I just wanted to throw that out for Joe Chick. I think he's in the comments.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my picks.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone that's watched, comment along with us. Go Phillies. For myself, you can follow me on Twitter at DylanJD98, as you see on the screen. You can follow my man Mark at Mark Henry Jr. _ You can follow his Tough Cover podcast on Twitter as well, and give the Painted Lines a follow at the Painted Lines. Have a good night. Go Phillies. Go Sixers.